Italy, it's politically correct to say signora
Signora.
for both married and unmarried women.
Signora.
It's like when we say Ms. in English.
Signora.
If you wanted to say good evening to a woman,
Buonasera, signora!
would be perfetto.
Signorina is another title used for women, specifically for unmarried or young women. Now, if you're not sure whether signorina is appropriate, it's always safe to use the generic signora for both married and unmarried women.
What about the men? Is it appropriate to address a man with a title?
Yes, you bet it is.
Signore is the word for Mr. when it's used by itself. When you put it with a last name, it loses the E off the end. If you wanted to say, "Good night, Mr. Valentino," you would say,
Buonasera, signor Valentino.
Okay, so you know your hellos, goodbyes, and a little in between. You also know how to be formal and polite enough to make it in Italy. We're off to a good start, but you may need some more words to make conversation a little more stimulating. Let's check out a dialogue with our new vocabulary. Buongiorno, dottore.
Ah, buongiorno signorina.
Come sta?
Sto bene, e lei?
Così così.
Arrivederla.
Arrivederla.
You may need a few more words to survive a real Italian conversation. You're in luck. You're about to learn the days of the week, the months and numbers. That will help spice up your vocabulary. But first, let's review what we just learned.
In general, Italian is more formal than English. In Italian, you are informal with a limited group of people, including your close friends, family, and kids. Young people usually use the informal within their own age group, whether or not they know each other. Small changes are made to the informal conversations to show respect and address someone formally, including using titles like signore, signora, and signorina.
Okay, for quiz 2, you're going to practice your conversation skills. We'll start off by asking you how you are a few times, then get into a complete conversation. In each case, we'll give you the English and it's your job to come up with the Italian. You'll see how it works. Here's the first question. Number 1. Come stai?
Benissimo.
Number 2. Come stai?
Così così.
Number 3. Come stai?
Non c'è male.
Number 4. Come stai?
Bene.
Number 5. Come stai?
Male.
All right, now that you know how you are, it's time to take on a full conversation. We'll give you the English, you give us the Italian. Number 6. Good morning, how are you?
Buongiorno, come stai?
Number 7. Good, thanks, and you?
Bene, grazie. E tu?
Number 8. Not bad.
Non c'è male.
Number 9. Goodbye.
Arrivederci.
Number 10. See you soon.
A presto.
We've come to the end of Quiz 2. Nice conversing. Now let's learn more Italian. Part 3. The calendar.
Let's go on to the calendar. By learning the calendar, you'll gain all kinds of useful vocabulary.
Section A. the months and the days of the week.
First, let's decide what month we're in. In Italian, you would ask what month it is by saying,
Che mese è?
An easy way to answer that question would be,
È gennaio.
it's January.
Now let's roll through the other 11 months. They should be pretty easy. They look a lot like the English words, but make sure you pay special attention to the pronunciation. Let's go through the months starting with January and ending with December.
Gennaio, febbraio, marzo, aprile, maggio, giugno, luglio, agosto, settembre, ottobre, novembre, dicembre.
Notice that the first letter of each month is not capitalized. Unlike English, you do not capitalize the first letter of the months or the days of the week in Italian.
Let's learn the vocab for the days of the week before we put them on our calendar.
Remember this sentence. Luigi made Mama give Valentino spaghetti daily. The first letter of each word of our sentence is the same as the days of the week, starting with Monday.
Lunedì, martedì, mercoledì, giovedì, venerdì, sabato, domenica.
There are two things to notice about the days of the week. First, that the days of the week are not capitalized, just like the months. Second, the first 5 days of the week end with an accented vowel, I. It's important for you to add this little accent, since without it, the words aren't correct.
Now let's put the days of the week on our calendar. Remember, Luigi made Mama give Valentino spaghetti daily.
Lunedì, martedì, mercoledì, giovedì, venerdì, sabato, domenica.
So you've got the months and the days of the week. What do you do if you forget what day of the week it is? We've got you covered.
To ask, what day is it today? You'd say, che giorno è oggi? People will answer you with one of the 7 days of the week. Let's say it's Monday, lunedì. To say today is Monday, you would say oggi è lunedì. To ask what day is tomorrow, say che giorno è domani? The day after Monday, lunedì, is Tuesday, martedì. So you would answer domani è martedì.
Just like sands through the hourglass, so are
I giorni della vita.
Buongiorno!
Che giorno è oggi?
Oggi è venerdì.
Ah, venerdì.
Evviva!
Che mese è?
È febbraio.
Va bene, va bene.
Dottore!
Che anno è?
Oh, 2020.
Huh?
just like sands through the hourglass, so are
I giorni della vita.
In this section, we taught you che mese è, what month is it, and then the names of the months of the year. You also learned what day is today, che giorno è oggi, and each of the 7 days of the week. And remember, don't capitalize the months or the days like we do in English. Keep them lowercase. There's only one thing missing on our calendar: numbers.
Section B, numbers.
Numbers are a must for learning any new language. Assuming you already know how to count, learning your numbers in Italian is just learning vocabulary.
The numbers 1 through 10 in Italian are very important. They're considered basic, essential knowledge, a critical part of learning your Italian numbers all the way up to 100.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Let's go over the numbers 1 through 10 one more time before we move on. In English, Let's go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. In Italiano.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Now, here are the numbers 11 to 19. The part of the word that is stressed is underlined. 11 is 11, 12 is 12, 13 is 13, 14 is 14, 15 is 15, 16 is 16, 17 is 17, 18 is 18, and 19 is 19.
These numbers are a little trickier than 1 through 10. They're the hardest numbers you'll need to learn. You just have to memorize them. Let's go through them again.
11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19.
Notice the stressed part is similar to the numbers 1 to 10, while the unstressed part resembles the word for 10, just like our teen.
To learn the numbers between 22 and 99, you really just need to learn the multiples of 10. You know, like 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, and so on. The numbers in between work pretty much like they do in English. Just tack the single-digit number on the end. Now let's take a look at the numbers between 20 and 29. You'll see how it works.
The word for 20 is venti. It's easy to remember because 20 rhymes with venti. 20, venti. What more could you ask for? Venti, ventuno, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29. Do you see how these are made up of the stem venti, which means 20, and then the numbers 1 through 9? Here are the rest of the multiples of 10.
30 is 30. 40 is 40. 50 is 50. 60 is 60. 70 is 70. 80 is 80. 90 is 90. 100 is 100.
Normally, after you learn the multiples of 10, you can just tack on the appropriate endings for 1 through 9 as is. For example, 99 is 99, and 46 is 46. There are a few exceptions, specifically with numbers that end in 1, 8, and 3. Before adding a number that begins with a vowel, uno, otto, drop the final vowel from the main stem.
For example, with 21, we would take the stem 20 and drop the final I and get 21. There is no vowel separating vent from the number 1, uno. It's the same thing for the number 28, 28. Numbers that end in 1 and 8 are the only numbers that drop the final vowels of each stem before they add the endings.
We said that numbers that end in a 3, tre, are also exceptions. The only weird thing about them is that the final vowel, e, has an accent because now it's a stressed final vowel. Easy enough.
So that's all you need to know to count from 1 to 99, or as we say in Italian, da uno a 99.
You now know your calendar, which means you've got the months, days of the week, and your numbers up to 100. Let's have another eavesdropping session and see our new vocab in action.
Just like sands through the hourglass, so are
I giorni della vita.
Buongiorno!
Che giorno è oggi?
Oggi è venerdì.
Ah, venerdì.
Evviva!
Che mese è?
È febbraio.
Va bene, va bene.
Dottore!
Che anno è?
Oh, 2020.
Huh?
just like sands through the hourglass, so are
I giorni della vita.
Italian numbers are pretty straightforward because they follow patterns. First, you learned the numbers 1 through 10, then 11 through 19. Here's where the pattern kicks in. The numbers between 20 and 29 are built with the root 20, the word for 20. The numbers 30 to 39 are built with the root 30, the word for 30. Each of the numbers all the way up to 99 can be formed this way by using the tens place number as the root and adding the numbers 1 to 9, just like in English. 21, 22, 31, 32, 41, 42. But don't forget about the few small Italian changes made for numbers ending in uno, tre, and otto.
Now it's time for quiz 3, or should I say quiz 3. With this quiz, we'll tackle the months, days of the week, and the numbers. Here's how it'll work. We'll give you a sequence of 2 things, and you give us the third one. So if we say Monday, Tuesday, you'd say Wednesday, except it'll all be in Italian. You'll see how it works. Oh, and by the way, since you've already learned the numbers, we'll number the questions in Italian as well. Here's numero 1.
We'll start with the months.
Numero 1. Gennaio, febbraio. Marzo. Gennaio, febbraio, marzo. Numero 2. Aprile, maggio. Giugno. Aprile, maggio, giugno. Numero 3. Luglio, agosto. Settembre. Luglio, agosto, settembre. Numero 4. Ottobre, novembre. Dicembre. Ottobre, novembre, dicembre. Okay, now it's time for the days of the week. Numero 5. Lunedì, martedì. Mercoledì. Lunedì, martedì, mercoledì. Numero 6. Mercoledì, giovedì. Venerdì. Mercoledì, giovedì, venerdì. Numero 7. Venerdì, sabato, domenica. Venerdì, sabato, domenica. Very good. Now let's close out with the numbers. Numero 8. 15, 16, 17. 15, 16, 17. Numero 9. 19, 20, 21. 19, 20, 21. Okay, this last one's a little different. Now, we're going to count by tens. Check it out. 30, 40, 50. 30, 40, 50.
Well, you made it through quiz 3. Nice job. Now we've just got a few more things to teach you before we're done.
A common syndrome of students of a new language is, I know lots of vocab, but have no sense of how to put it together. They learn all of this vocab, but have no survival skills in the language because they don't know how to put it together in sentences.
Ciao,
Ciao.
come stai?
Bene, e tu?
Abbastanza bene, grazie.
Che giorno è oggi?
Oggi è venerdì.
Va bene. 11, 21, 30.
Pizza. Concerto. Simpatico.
Che?
Do you see what I mean? You can know a million words, but if you don't know how to put them in sentences, you can't communicate. We fill in the blanks in the next part of the program, where you'll get an introduction to subject, pronouns, and verbs. including how and when to use the verbs essere and avere.
Part 4. Subject pronouns and an introduction to verbs.
Subject pronouns are an important part of the English and Italian language. Blanking out on what they are? Stay tuned to find out.
Section A. Subject pronouns.
In English, subject pronouns are the words I, you, he, she, it, we, you, and they.
There are more Italian subject pronouns than there are in English. Let's run through them. There are 5 singular subject pronouns: io, I, tu, you, and a formal subject pronoun for you, lei, with a capital L. Don't sweat it. We'll explain this one in detail in a minute. The last 2 are lui, he, and lei, she. On to the plural. There are 4 plural subject pronouns: noi, we, and voi, you, along with a formal subject pronoun for you, loro. That's right, with a capital L. Loro with a lowercase l is the subject pronoun they.
They're pretty straightforward, but notice there are 4 ways to say the word you in Italian: tu, lei, voi, and loro. That's because with the word you, the Italian language makes 2 distinctions that English doesn't: formal versus informal, and singular versus plural or number. First, we'll look at formal versus informal.
Remember earlier when we talked about how you couldn't use words like ciao with everyone? You learned that you had to use different phrases with people you know very well versus people you don't know very well. We need to keep this distinction in mind when we say the word you.
If you're speaking casually to someone you know really well, like your best friend Roberto, use the subject pronoun tu. However, no matter how casual you are with your friends, there are cases when you need to be formal.
Like a job interview, for instance. If you don't know the person you're talking to, or you want to be polite, you should use the subject pronoun lei. Lei is also used with someone who you're trying to show respect to, who you really don't know in a personal or intimate way, like a potential boss. You've already seen this happen when the informal and you, e tu, went to the formal e lei.
So while in English we just say you no matter who we're talking to, in Italian we say tu if we are familiar with the person we're referring to, and lei to be more formal.
Now let's look at number. When we say number in respect to subject pronouns, we're determining whether we're talking to one person singular or more than one person plural. The same word is used you, but there's you singular and you plural. This might be confusing since in English the subject pronoun you can be either singular or plural.
You are eating chocolate pudding. You are eating chocolate pudding.
See what we mean? But in Italian, the word for you is different if it refers to more than one person. Sort of like y'all or yous guys.
So that means there are 4 different ways to say the word you: tu, lei, voi, and loro. Use the word tu to refer to one person you're familiar with. Use the word lei to refer to one person when you need to be more formal. Use the word voi when you are talking to more than one person you are familiar with, and loro when you're speaking to more than one person formally. Woo.
The official way to say it is that tu is the singular familiar, lei is the singular formal, voi is the plural familiar, and loro is the plural formal.
Before we move on, there's one more thing about subject pronouns. Look at the subject pronouns in English. See how we include it with our third-person singulars? Well, in Italian, there isn't a word for it as a subject pronoun. But don't sweat it, everything's going to be okay.
So those are the Italian subject pronouns. The subject pronoun replaces the noun and says who's doing the action. Let's practice using them a few times.
Davide e io andiamo al cinema.
What English phrase is the same as saying, David and I are going to the movies? We are going to the movies, right? Right. And it's the same in Italian. You can use the subject pronoun noi to replace the nouns David and I.
Noi andiamo al cinema.
Don't worry about knowing every word in the sentence. For now, trust us on the translation and concentrate on the nouns and the subject pronouns that we're using to replace them. Let's try another one.
Davide e Stefano ballano.
This would be the same as saying what?
Loro ballano.
We replaced Davide e Stefano with the subject pronoun loro, which means they. Okay, Now that you have an understanding of subject pronouns, you're ready for your first verb. Congratulations! But first, let's have a quick review.
In this section, we learned all about the subject pronouns. The Italian subject pronouns are io, I, tu, you familiar, lei, you formal, lui, he, lei, she, noi, we, voi, you familiar plural, loro, you formal plural, and loro, they.
As you can see, there are 4 subject pronouns for you. The informal or familiar forms of you are tu for one person and voi for more than one person. You use these subject pronouns with people you know pretty well. The formal versions of you are lei for one person and loro for more than one person.
Section B, Introduction to Verbs. So what is a verb anyway? A verb is a part of the sentence that tells you what's shaken. It describes an action. The verb is what tells you what's going on. There are thousands of verbs: to run, to jump, to exaggerate, but in this program we'll cover 2. To be, essere, and to have, avere.
So by now, you probably could recite the Italian subject pronouns in your sleep. But just in case, they're io, tu, lei, lui, lei, noi, voi, loro, and loro. In Italian, there's a unique form of each verb to match each subject. This process of making the verb change with the subject is called conjugating.
Essere, to be, is our first verb. It's a basic but important verb. In English, there are different forms of the verb to be. Among them are I am, you are, and he or she is. You choose which form of the verb to use based on the subject of the sentence.
Just so you have a model of conjugation in your mind, here's to be in English. I am, you are, he, she is, we are, you are, they are. An Italian conjugation will look similar. The verbs will be presented in the subject pronouns chart. See? Nice and easy. The singular subject pronouns, io, tu, lei, lui, lei, on the left, and the plural subject pronouns, noi, voi, loro, and loro on the right. Beside each subject pronoun will be the unique form of the verb that matches each subject.
Changing a verb to match its subject is called conjugating. So you could say that we're conjugating the English verb to be.
To be or not to be near the Sistine Chapel.
Let's take a look at the conjugation for the Italian verb essere, which is a conjugation of to be in Italian.
I really think we're lost.
Yeah, we're lost.
Io sono, tu sei, lei è, lui, lei è, noi siamo, voi siete, loro sono, loro sono.
Notice our charts stay the same as the English conjugation of to be. The verb, in its infinitive form, essere, is at the top. The subject pronouns are divided into 2 columns, singular and plural. Io, tu, and lei, lui, lei are in the left column, while the plural subject pronouns are on the right, noi, voi, and loro, loro. The matching verb is next to each subject pronoun. The only changes from English are 2 formal forms of you and no, it.
I mean, there's always supposed to be a line outside Sistine
know.
Chapel. I don't see a line.
I know. We're gonna find it.
We'll find it. I mean, you're the one with the map.
We're gonna find it. Just relax.
Don't do it.
Who wants to blame?
Essere is an irregular verb that doesn't mean much to you now, but it will when we dive into the verb section in the lively world of Italian, nouns, verbs, and adjectives. For now, just understand that it means that essere is not conjugated the way most verbs will be, so you have to memorize the forms of the verb. Let's take another look at essere, to be.
Io sono, tu sei, lei è, lui, lei è, noi siamo, Voi siete. Loro sono. Loro sono.
So, that's the conjugation of essere. But how do you use it? One of the many ways essere is used is to indicate nationality. Let's practice the forms of essere to indicate the following people are Italian.
Io sono italiano. Tu sei italiano. Lei è italiana. Lui è italiano.
Noi siamo italiani.
Voi siete italiani.
Loro sono italiani.
So you see, essere can be used to say that the tenors you just saw are Italian. But it's even easier than that. You can use the conjugated form of the verb by its lonesome.
Io sono italiano.
Is the same as saying,
Sono italiano.
That's the great thing about conjugating. When you conjugate the verb by itself, you know two things: what the action is and who's doing it.
Let's learn some more nationalities. Then we'll learn how to use essere with D. Adjectives of nationality are used to indicate what country people are from. These are your first adjectives in this program.
Tedesco, americano, russo, spagnolo, francese, inglese, cinese, giapponese, canadese.
We said that essere was also used to tell what city someone is from. To ask what city a person is from, you would ask, Di dove sei?
Di dove sei?
Sono di Firenze. Sono italiano. E tu?
Sono di Washington. Sono americana.
You'll find many more uses of essere as we go. It's time to move on to the second verb of our program, avere, which means to have. You'll use avere all the time. Like essere, avere is irregular in the present tense. It doesn't follow a normal pattern of conjugation, so you'll have to memorize each form. Here are the present tense forms of avere, to have.
Remember, the H's are silent. Io ho, tu hai, lei, lui, or lei ha, noi abbiamo, voi avete, loro or loro hanno.
Avere, to have, is used in Italian the same way it is in English, like to have a car or a brush, plus other additional uses.
Italians also use the verb avere a bunch of ways English speakers don't, like I have cold, I have hunger, and I have thirst. In English, we use the verb to be for this stuff, like I'm cold or I'm hungry, but not in Italian. The final use for avere is with age. That's right, in Italian you say you have so many years. In English we say you are so many years old.
Most uses of avere are pretty obvious because it means to have. Avere is used for pretty much anything you can have.
Ho una macchina.
We also said that avere is used in a bunch of everyday expressions. Let's figure out exactly when and how you'll use them in Italian.
In this case, expressions that express a person's feelings or physical sensations, like hunger, thirst, and desire.
The avere expressions are formed by using a conjugated form of avere plus a noun. This is a little different than English. In English, we use the to